Dear gentle viewers, I hope this video finds you well. Clearly, you can see I have been influenced by Bridgerton season 2. I really enjoyed it more than season 1, I must admit. And I think I watched it in one weekend. I'm not proud of myself. I enjoyed so many aspects of season 2. I think obviously all of us, it's the fashion. Number one, the clothes, the makeup. I have to give the ladies marks because the things they have to wear underneath those dresses, and that's why I think they always have a fun. They're fanning themselves because it's a funnest down there. It was interesting to see Anthony more human, and people who in Nairobi will understand. I think the first season he was in the streets, and the second season he was off the streets and looking for a wife. He also got rid of the side whiskers, and now, okay, he looked a bit more modern. I think we can all agree we were at the edge of our seats between the plot twist that was Kate and the sister. We were all scared what was going to happen if the sister finds out that Kate is attracted to Anthony. I didn't think it was going to be that interesting because the Duke of Hastings was missing. And so at the beginning we were a bit disappointed, but then things got better. There were a lot of social gatherings. As usual, there were many balls, many dinners. So it was easy for me, someone who's interested in etiquette, to pick out some etiquette mistakes. And definitely the show doesn't focus too much on etiquette, but it's just fun for me to look and to critique for my own joy, and also at the end of the day I'm learning something. And before we went even too far in episode 1, this is what I discovered. You had to be really keen.
And when I myself am already betrothed to Mr. Finch.
Miss Farrington were being served tea, I think, with her friends. Oh, her daughter's in the tea room. And when the lady placed the tea on the side, she grabbed it instinctively from the top, and then she quickly remembered and she held on the tea handle, and also the tea saucer and whether she was holding the tea was too close to her boss, so we should always have it at the waist level. Second thing I noticed is when the family was waiting for Eloise to be revealed before they went to the diamond ball. So look at what I mean.
If one of you utters a single word.
We all know that she's unbothered with these social events and these social requirements and rules, but I think she would have done better when it came to her posture. When she was coming onto her family, she was slouched, which then matches she was disinterested. But at the end of the day, good posture is essential whether you're interested in something or not, and it just would have made her gown look much better, her posture there. She does better as we go along though. Third was when Anthony was on a date with one of his candidates. He was interviewing his candidate, and I love the fact he had a notebook and was cancelling.
3 children is what I've always wanted, my lord.
What if, say, one of your daughters had a penchant for overspending? How would you deal with that?
It was a serious business, and he was having his elbows on the table as he was, I think, eating ice cream. You always have your elbows off the table, especially when you're still eating anything. When all the food is out, then you can have your elbows on the table. So there, Anthony, I guess he had more serious issues and matter than worrying if his elbows on the table. He was looking for the proper wife. Fourth etiquette mistake I noticed was when Kate came to visit Lady Danbury's house.
Lady Danbury, Miss Kate Sharma.
Well, now that we are all arrived.
Almost.
I beg your pardon?
We have almost all arrived. There is also Newton.
She brought her pet dog into the house. That wasn't very polite. By just looking at Lady Danbury's expression, she wasn't really impressed having the pet dog on her expensive couches and her carpets. So clearly, she didn't ask for permission prior or request if she could have her dog in the house, even though it's a house dog in your house, not in someone else's house. What about if that person has allergies and maybe you could make them fall sick? You're coming in as a guest, so you're requesting to be hosted, and then you bring your pet dog. It couldn't be left home. Anyway, we move along. And while we're still on Kate, when she entered in that scene in episode 1, she had mud on her dress because she came into Lady Danbury's home and decided to take the horse from the stable and go for a ride. There's so many mistakes there. Number 1, she didn't request if she could take the horse for a ride. Number 2, also if she got hurt or the horse got hurt, then that will be Lady Danbury's liability because it's her home. So those are 3 things at once. Still on Kate, Mishama at the ball when the Baron requested for the sister's hand in a dance. Kate outwardly asked Baron their social status in society. And I know she was doing due diligence, but it seemed quite impolite to be the first thing she asked.
Miss Edwina, would you honor me with a dance?
Corning, you said.
The Baron Corning.
And it made the gentleman uncomfortable. But again, in those days, and even now, I think it's part of our society to first do due diligence, especially if you're a bigger sister or an older brother. But I think should have done it in a better setting than at the ball, because that wasn't really fair.
I see we have much to learn.
Lastly, on episode 1, still at the ball, when Eloise was being presented to the queen, she wasn't able to maintain eye contact with the queen, and I can understand, you're anxious. Can relate to that, social anxiety. And already, number 2, she really didn't care much for this event or being the diamond, and also the queen is quite intimidating. But again, maintain eye contact all the time when you're speaking to someone. Now we go to episode 3, where I noticed Miss Featherington as she entered the modiste, which is a shop where they used to go and buy their gowns for those elaborate social gatherings. She was very rude to the owner.
Perhaps it is this fabric. I hear there's a new modiste across the street, just arrived from Vienna. Perhaps she will have something that will display your assets to the better advantage.
As she was getting her gowns fitted, she suggested, and I think it's part of frustration and getting back to her, that she would rather go across the street to another modiste to get her daughters better gowns, which are more stylish. And even though she thought that, she didn't need to say it aloud to hurt the lady's feelings. She would have just walked across the street without announcing it. Still in episode 3, when the Featherington hosted Miss Cowper. Miss Cowper in this scene was holding the glass of wine by the bowl, and you should always, especially if it's red wine, you can hold it at the stem here, at the tip here, or at the stem here. And for those who are experts here, which I find it quite challenging, but yeah, she was holding it like this. In front of a potential suitor, she would have done better, because this was before we knew he was fake, that he actually was a potential, and he would have married her finally. She's really gone through many potentials. I really wish in the next season she gets hitched. Still on episode 3, when Lady Danbury visited Mrs. Bridgerton at her home, we can see that Mrs. Bridgerton served herself tea first before serving her guest, who was Lady Danbury. You always serve your guest tea first. And if you have a server, they still serve your guest tea first. Still on episode 3, we see Kate enjoying afternoon tea, and she stirred her tea round instead of the 12 and 6 o'clock move. So she did it like this instead of back and forth. Also in episode 3, we see a scene where the Bridgerton brothers, Collins and Benedict, were enjoying afternoon tea. First thing I noticed is that stirring the tea around instead of back and forth movement, and then he removed the magic powder and sprinkled it in the cup with his pincer grip without using a spoon, and then handed it to his brother, and then the brother just reached out without using the saucer and drank it. So there we see a few mistakes, and I was really interested to know what the magic powder was. There were so many guesses at home when we were watching with my daughter, because it looks like afterward Benedict was very calm. I think a bit too calm. So I'd love to know what that is. It's interesting. What do you think the magic powder was? I also noticed when Colin and Benedict were having tea, Colin was holding the teacup with the pinky out and holding it by the rim like that. The right way of having tea, how you hold your teacup, is you pinch, and this I always struggle with. I'm also practicing. And then use your middle finger to support, and then you have your tea. So we try our best to avoid this, which most people do. And again, remember where your saucer is, at the waist. Still in episode 3, at Mrs. Bridgerton's house, they were having a formal dinner.
Perhaps.
it is time for a toast.
And we can see there when Lady Danbury called for a toast. As she was not the host always requests for the toast, the one who always does the toast. But I can clearly see that Lady Danbury was diffusing a situation. Benedict was clearly too happy. And number 2, she was tapping on the wine glass, which you can, but be very gentle, because your host might treasure the glassware, could be their wedding glassware. If you can try to get people's attention without tapping the wine glass with the knife, and sometimes it's hard because people are deep in conversations, so try your best to stand up and at least speak out. But again, it's not uncommon for you people to type the knife in the glass, but just be careful. And also we can see that as Lady Danbury was proposing a toast, not everyone had their glass filled and not everyone had a glass. But again, we said she was trying to diffuse the situation, and we can understand at that point. And lastly, when Lady Danbury proposed a toast, she did it in the middle of the dinner. It's usually advised at the beginning or at the end so that you don't interrupt people enjoying the meal and enjoying conversations. Hope you've enjoyed these etiquette mistakes and you've learned from them. I've also learned from them. My team did a really good job of putting this together. They really did watch Bridgerton season 2 and they clearly enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it? Let me know some of the etiquette mistakes you could point out or some of your concerns. It's a positive critique. At the end of the day, the series is not about etiquette. Let me know also if you enjoyed season 2 and are you looking forward to season 3. Who do you think are the characters coming back? If you enjoyed this video, should I do more of them? Kindly like, share and subscribe, and see you next time.